Okay, let's start. Thank you for joining today. Today is a Tuesday and we have next session for the Cloud Monitoring Tuesday series of our webcast about the Azure monitoring, how it works, etc. We are working together with Azure UAE team, user community, Azure Qatar and Saudi Azure community. So you are welcome, and always you can find additional information here by the QR codes, and also these sessions will be recorded, and you will have additional information on the description of these videos, etc., etc. And my name is Igor Shestitka, and today we will talk about the PowerShell scripts and automation runbooks, how to create the scripts and how to work with log analytics. If you just joined it for this series only, I'm Microsoft MVP. You can see my works position, you can see my roles that I have or had before, and also some backgrounds, and you always can find me on by my email or by name on the LinkedIn, or also some videos not only on English but my local languages, also on my YouTube channel. So you are welcome, and let's talk about the cloud monitoring. It's a 7th session for cloud monitoring. We're going deeper and deeper from the common strategy and common tools overview for Azure monitoring till the creating the script, the final, let's say, solution that will allow us to collect the information and have different views for different systems, create the reports, etc., etc. Let's see how it will work. So for today, we will talk about why to use the PowerShell scripts for log analytics processing, how it can help you or your customers. We will talk about the processing the data by PowerShell from log analytics, how to take the data, how to analyze the data, what we have to do more, etc., etc. And also we will talk about the main scripts that could be used for the runbooks, for the PowerShell. Depends what you are looking for and how the scripts should run. And plus talk about the gaps and further development. Plus, again, so this is just a review of the script, and final solution we will talk about. The final solution we will talk on the next session, when we will finalize all findings, all options, etc., to have it work together. And again, just to remind you for notification, that's how the Azure Monitor and log analytics works and how it collects the data. You can find there on the diagrams on the different layers. There is or integrated Azure agent, for example, or services on the Azure subscription, some services, health services and activity logs, send the data to the logs, to the activity logs, etc., etc., to have this data. When we are talking about the Azure resources, there is additional metrics and resource logs that send the same data on another information. And when we are talking about the virtual machines and operation system, we have Azure Monitor agent or another legacy system like log analytics agent that collects the data inside the virtual machine and sends this data to the metrics or to the log analytics, from where you can extract the data based on the Casta query language or another API calls, etc. But whatever the best way to get the data, it's use the log analytics, like a huge analytics database to analyze all of these stuff together. And of course, today we will look exactly how to execute. Before we talk a really deep dive inside the Casta query, we reviewed the previous scenarios on 2 previous sessions. We reviewed scenarios how to work with the logs from the VM, from the backup, from storage, from the networking. Right now we will use this Casta query to automate this decision and work with. Why? Again, so when we are talking about the log analytics or ready to use solution, we have a few scenarios. One of the scenario is working with alerts when you have some query or some predefined alerts. These alerts happens and some parameters change it, etc. And you can send the message, send the email, or execute another runbook, or use the webhook to execute something outside the Azure, etc., to react on this result of this alert, right? You build the query, and this query checks some data, etc. But in reality, there is a lot of limitation when we are working with the exactly the alerts, etc. But it could be better to have something like automated runbooks from Azure Automation that will do some checks, some analysis, or some reporting by schedule to better understand what's going on. For example, a lot of customers asking to have some more complex logic solutions that will not just react only on one query like alert, and they want to analyze what's going on and look on the different vital signs and counters inside one operation system or inside the different machines from the different operation system or even from the different type of the objects, to collect this data together and after that do some reaction, do some auto healing or do some scaling, etc. This is one of this scenario. Another scenario when we are doing with the log analytics, it's operation, we have the scheduling of the start-stop virtual machines, but before start or before stop, for example, virtual machine, we need to check, is it all main operations already done? Are there any activities inside the service that we need to check, like we discussed it on the before previous webcast about processes, that we can look on the processes, we can look on the networking activity for processes, CPU activities, etc. And after that, by knowing the exactly needed operations, right? For example, we know that this process typically, when it has the workloads, utilize this amount of CPU, this amount of disk operations, this amount of the network operation. And if we can't see these activities for this process, it means that machine could be stopped, could be shut down because there is no any activities like expected, especially when we are doing auto scaling, but not for the web application that there is automated auto scaling, but for the web virtual machine application based on the virtual machines. So this scenario is really good to work with. Plus, a lot of requests from the customers that they want to see some reporting with different parameters, with different scenarios, with different tables, with different color schemas, with a lot of variants how they want to represent the current data. Yeah, sometimes we can go and execute the exactly request inside the log analytics and use the custom query editor to do this, but mostly again we need some automation scenarios that will do, for example, every week by Sunday, for example, to have a report from the last week or something also like this. Plus maybe we need different formats like Excel, etc. Plus we need to have something like visualization, like charts, etc., that could be sent at like attachment, not only the data and list of the data, but also the attachment that will demonstrate scenarios, what's going on and what's happening inside the system. Plus, again, all the scripts should be universal and will not require additional installation, additional configuration, etc., etc. Do not require it interactive works, etc. So, like to be able to run inside, for example, automation account and work with it. So this is like a scenarios when we can use the PowerShells. Mostly again, look on the data, analyze the data, execute auto-healing or execute scaling, etc. Look up the data by scheduling and do the reporting with different ways of the reporting, etc. And what exactly we need to do this, for example, if we are planning to build something from scratch, there is a few options. There are a few options that's like allow you require it to be done. At first, you just need in Azure or application registration or name it SPN service principal name that will allow you to connect to any system with appropriate permissions, appropriate roles. To connect to different log analytics, etc. objects to take the data, or to connect, because PowerShell needs to be authenticated automatically by managed identity. Both scenarios are supported by Azure Monitoring, and we can use both. For now, I would prefer, if we're talking about the exactly Azure automation, I would prefer managed identity, because it's easiest way to execute something. We just add the managed identity like a run as account for automation and just pointing to this run as account to work on it. Or we can create
Wait a minute.
hi there, Ali. Can you make your microphone mute, or I will mute you? Okay. Okay, so like with SPN, it's more universal, because with SPN security principal name, you can use, if you know the ID and secret for this one, you can execute from anywhere, not only from automation account, and authenticate the user with SPN more easily with no any interaction authentication. Plus, you need something that, for example, if we are talking about the reporting, you need something like a SendGrid account. SendGrid account in Azure is for free, up to, you see, 25 case emails per month, or something like 85 or 100 emails per day maximum could be used like a free account. That's absolutely enough to do the monitoring for the customers that need all reports. Like, I mean, customers that has like a lot of environments, like a line of business application 1, 2, 3, 10, to send the different reporting, etc. by daily or weekly or even by a few hours, etc. This free account will be fine. Don't worry about this. Plus, you will need the PowerShell runtime and PowerShell scripting skills, but it's not necessary to need it like exactly a deep dive. I will explain you because it's mostly the blocks, and again Visual Studio Code to do exactly the coding, and after that pushing this to the Azure. So this is most of like needed requirements to do this identity authentication. From the PowerShell scripting, right, perspective, what parameter we need to send and what parameter we need to, what blocks script will have. For the parameters, it's most important to understand that we will need tenant ID, we will need application registration ID and secret for this application registration ID. It could be stored inside some, for example, key vault if it's required, or it could be stored exactly in code or sent like a parameter, I mean registration ID and secrets. You need workspace ID because to have the access to the log analytics, you need to call by the workspace ID, and plus you need SendGrid secret. It's a key, or name it API key in SendGrid. You can get it on the settings of the SendGrid, and after that you will be able to run the script with these parameters. And the main blocks, it's like authentication in Azure with application ID or managed identity. Depends which type of identity you prefer inside the Azure monitoring, or it will be a universal script. You need to build the custom query like a string, just a string, and after that invoke this custom query like operation AZ operational insights to selected log analytics service selected by workspace ID. So the system will take query, will take workspace ID, execute query automatically, I mean PowerShell, right, against this log analytics, and send you back data. And this data will be quite, let's say, mesh or massive mesh, let's say, because in reality, it's not like a just array. It's like rotated columns when you have in each array object. This object represent each line by columns. Like just imagine that you look on the object like you have the table, inside the table column 1, column 3, column etc, and the lines 1, 2, 3, 4. In reality, you will have in each array a cell, you will have the lines. Inside this cell you will have fields that will represent the columns and data, and you will need to transform these arrays to work more effectively to exactly array of the objects. I will show you, don't worry. So you will have, after this transformation, we will take the data like we have result, point, name of the column, result, point, name of the column, result, point, name of the column, and we will be able to work with this data returned by invoke AZ operational insight this way, and it will be again fine to work with this solution. Plus, again, after that, we are talking about, for example, reporting. To do the reporting, we can generate HTML body based on the current data. So like you just build the new string and add to the string HTML comments. These HTML comments like HTML, blah, 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 open table, put the data from array like tr, td, close tr, whatever you want. All these operations you will need to do manually, and will need to control this structure again manually by code. Plus, on another hand, you will be able to use the current array to transform it like a 64 base array with CSV. So we can take this array and say, okay guys, look, this array exactly could be converted to a CSV file, Excel file, right? And this file will have exactly right columns, exactly right data, exactly right lines. And after that, convert it to the base 64 and send it to the client. To send to the client, we will need to you will need to use again, or maybe another solution, but by default SendGrid API to send these emails with data like a body and with attachment like a CSV files. So this will be the main idea of our script. Questions? Again, if you have any questions, please use reaction icon on the top of the Teams window and just raise the hand and type the question on the chat. If there is no questions, or you can type the question and I will continue. And I would like to demonstrate you this script as is. I just delete from this script required information. You can see here some parameters, like we are talking about the script that takes the SLA report for the virtual machines. Here you can see all required parameters, like we discussed, subscription ID. It's also required target resource group to know where the workspace ID placed, which it's days, how many days we want to take, time frame we want to take, what exactly from, and where we need to send these emails, and this send grid that will provide us key to connect to SendGrid exactly and execute the solution. So this is the parameters that we talk about. And after that, main options here, we can find from here. For example, if we need some dates, we are taking the required times, dates, etc. from two. What we are doing exactly here, we take the workspace name like workspace ID, resource groups to take it. We take the workspace name, you see, get easy operational inside workspace by resource groups and workspace name to get the workspace like object to execute the next command. After that, we build exactly the query. This query sets the total counts like 60 minutes multiplied by hours back, how long SLA we want to take. From, for example, range, it's 1 hour SLA, 1 day SLA, etc. After that, what we are doing, we put the inside metrics, we execute exactly namespace computer, heartbeat, calculate with the same, put this hours back data, take the region from where, and just calculate SLA based on the current value, multiply by 100, take just the two last digits after the points, etc. So this is the request, and we execute this request like this one. So it's exactly the call to the operational inside query to this workspace that we have from this command, and with the query that we built here. And result, by the way, will be strange. Let's see. So we can execute this command directly from the shell. Let's take the system. Let's go to the Cloud Shell. Sorry. Give me a Cloud Shell. Why it's so slow? Okay, so we are on the Cloud Shell. Get AZ context. We are on right subscription. We need to define, for example, hours back. Let's say back will be 1. So we're just looking for the 1 hour SLA, and let's put our code here. Sorry, workspace is null. Yeah, exactly, because we need to execute the previous command before. Let's do one by one. Okay, our workspace name will be Log Analytics workspace, and it will be this one. Ready. Second one will be the resource group name. Ready. Right now we can execute this one, and we have workspace like a object for now, this one. So we are pointing to the right workspace, and we can continue to execute this. And after that we need to execute these two commands. First command will be like this one. Sorry, wrong copy. And right now, yeah, we execute it. If we look on the query that we have there, you see what we see here. We see results, and if we look for results, we see the machines report like a computer, etc., computer, SLA, computer, SLA, etc., etc., etc. All data that we have there is provided like this, right? Like object. So like when we need to work with this system, like 0, it's a bug. You see, we always receive the same because it's just like one block. And after that, by using this stuff and this command, we convert it to exactly to the array. And right now, if we look on the result out, it will be exactly the array let's do bigger. It will be exactly the array that we can work with, analyze it, etc. But same time we need to do something like access to these blocks, etc., etc. And it's what we have here, right? So like we convert it, but we want to build the table. Look, I have the next one. It's exactly execution of the building the content of the solution. Look, what we are doing, we start, where is the HTML? Yeah, we have the variable content, HTML, content, body, etc. We build the new block, and inside the new block we build the table with the no, table here should be, where it's blah blah blah, where is table? Yeah, here we build the table. What exactly we are doing the table? We send this data to the build table command, and we just look on each parameter inside array, take it and analyze, for example, 99%, 99.5, 99.9 to set the different row colors. It will be the red one, or it will be the yellow one, or it will be the normal one, or green one, etc. And build, you see, additional rows, additional rows, additional rows, additional rows, and finalize all these operations as is, right? So right now we have table that's built it, we close the table, add some additional information, executes the same request as you can see, but base it on date now and date, finish date. You see start time without the finish time, and execute another one to get another structure of the solution and execute the next result. So it will build not by the last day, last hours, but it will build with the longest period. And build the another table and close the HTML. But after that, I say this is like a report 3 days, etc. But after that, most important thing that's like we need to send it also like Excel, because we already manipulate this data like a result. We just execute the same command, but to generate another table, another array. It will be the same table, but same time we can use really interesting command that's named convert to CSV inside the PowerShell. We take this table, we take this command, we convert it, join with new line, and we will receive what? We will receive the CSV object with computer, SLA, name of the computer, SLA, name of the computer, SLA, name of the computer, SLA. So it will be exactly the CSV object. To convert it to the format that will be able to send over the email like attachment, we need to convert it after that to the bytes array. And after that, use to send exactly to the email, by email like attachment, it should be base 64 string. And after that, if you look on the encoded text Excel, it's a 64 bits conversion, and this file or this string could be exactly attached to the email like a required option. This is the main idea how we going through this code and execute one by one. After that, but by the way, I forgot it, if we need to send this data like compressed file, like a zip file, etc., we can, before convert it to 64 bits, what we can do, let's do like this. Look, we have before this bytes, like quite big. But we can, we can't reuse because this is a library, and this library could be included on the script. You see, get a compressed byte array or get decompressed byte array that you can use directly, because inside system there is a system IO compression gzip stream, and you can convert anything to the gzip stream and decompress it. And anyway, if you need to do the compression, you will be able to execute it and get the, for example, you have a huge file and don't want to send this huge file by email like a megabytes, right? So it will be better to compress it and set like attachment. So like before encode like 64 base, you do the compression and execute it. And after that, the last step that could be used after, it's exactly the sending of the email. So right now we have the body. This body contains inside content, you see, finalized by HTML. So it's like if we look on the content right now, it will be just a standard body, HTML body, right? But at the same time, we have a second file that will provide the information about the Excel. We re-execute the request and convert it to the Excel and to build from this 64 bits body. So right now we need to send the data. Last block, we create the new object that will be used like a dictionary and add authorization bar for our send grid keys that we provide like one of the parameter of the script. After that, we add the content of the request. It will be application JSON. We fill out all required parameters like we need. And after that, we are building the body of the solution, of the email that we will send. So the body, personalization of the body to, from, parameters that we want to send to, from where. The from should be the same like you have registered on your SendGrid account. Subject that you provided. Content will be text HTML because we are sending the HTML, and exactly the content, it's all that we have inside like a text HTML code inside the content variable. It will be added. Attachments, we can add a few attachments like these blocks, one block, second block, third block, etc., etc. How many attachments you need to send. And so the content of the attachment exactly encoded base 64 bits things, and file name, you just put the any file name, and attachment will looks like this file name. I generate the file name you see here. After that, I convert this body to JSON with the depth of 4. It's not need more. And the last one, invoke REST method by all these parameters provided by, and structure, by the way, provided by the SendGrid API documentation. So we call the version 3 API to send, method post, headers that provide us our authentication, authorization, and provide our content types that we are sending, and bodies that we prepared like a JSON object, and it will be pushed to the system to execute like SendGrid email. So that's all. And after, we will have emails like, just a second, in reality like this one. You can see, so this is the SLA report, this is the last 1 day, operations, and SLA per hour. The first one was like per days, another one per hours, to better understand what's going on in SLA. And this SLA also could be colored. You see some options, you can see, provide us the information that SLA was not 100% and even not 99%, and it's why it's red, because we are using, if you look on the code again back, where we have this build system, build table. This table has some logic inside, function has some logic inside, where we are building the request. When we have less than 99%, it's deep red, just like a light red, again yellow, norm, what it will be, like a normal, yeah, it's RGB, it's like a gray, normal gray, etc. So the columns will be like required and added like a standard operation. Now, it's why we can see different colors here or here. 99 most close, but not close to the 100%. 100 is provided like as is. Plus, you see, we have generated an Excel file. When we open the Excel file, we can see here the same but in Excel format. If we need different Excel files, we can execute the different request, put it on the different values, and after that each value convert to Excel, and variable, right, convert to Excel, after that to code 64 base, and attach like a few different attachment when we need to send different data at all. So there is here. So instead of execute just one option, you will need to execute this option, this block, twice or 3 times, depends how many Excel files you need to send. And after that, this should be attachment like a comma, next block, comma, next block, etc., etc. With, do not forget to change the names of attachment. You see attachment name 1, but it will be attachment name 2, 3, just to be sure that names will be different. Questions? Okay, anyway, so like you can raise the hands if you're looking for something, but what we also need, we will maybe look more deeper in Azure automation. But anyway, to run this pipeline or runbook, you will need to be sure that automation configured correctly, that all modules that you need install it, like AZ automation module, AZ account module, etc., should be configured. It's really important to understand that Azure Automation works with legacy version 5, then version 7. Version 7 is still on preview, and if your policy, I mean organizational policy, is not accepted the previews, you have to look on the version 5, and there will be a lot of different options, like CMD LEDs could be different, parameters could be different, properties could be different, string translation could be different. If you look on my code here, it's like you see special Azure Automation fix instead of version 7, and this command that work correctly in version 7, we need to execute this command connection to KSV with a no type information. Plus, for example, for some requests, we also have some additional options. Just a second, I'm trying to find this. Yeah, different dates, etc., etc. And you need to understand that your local time is not valid, and you need to be sure that zone information, time zone information, will be applied. If you're planning to have the reports, for example, in UAE zone, you need to convert it to UAE zone, because it's by default, it's universal time, right? So like you see, we have the, for example, I take the data time by universal time. After that, I can put here Gulf time or Arabian time, and take exactly the zone ID and convert my UTC time to zone ID to have exactly the right date and right time, because it's quite different, and we have inside the Azure UTC time. So like to be sure that we correlate it on the right time, we need to have this, let's say, patching to execute it. So UTF and ASCII, it could be the also issue. And if you look again on this code, there is Unicode, but you have to understand which parameters, how you need to configure, or it should be the Unicode, or it should be ASCII, what exactly you need, or different character tables, and on offline new line strings, etc. Also could be the issue, and it is why here join new line. You see, it's really important to understand and know, because sometimes system missing these options, right? And again, so like for the charts, I did not demonstrate for the charts, but to make the charts, you can use these CSS classes and generate separate HTML attachment that will give you exactly the charts, like a separate scenario. You can't include the CSS inside the email, it will be ignored, but use the CSS outside will work fine, like attachment. So do not push diagrams and graphics exactly inside the email. It will be fine to have it like separate HTML that will be opened like attachment, open it by click, and customer will see the reports. And again, so like what is the scenarios? So this PowerShell, especially if you use like a SPN, service principal name, instead of managed identity, could be universal. So like we can run the script over the automation with schedule, or by webhooks, or by alerts. So it will be like runbooks with the different scenarios to call it. Another one, it could be the Azure function. So you can add the same code to the Azure function and execute it. As far as you can see, we can execute this code in the Cloud Shell with minimal changes, especially again if it is SPN, you don't need any changes. If we are talking about the managed identity, for the authentication we're using this block. So this is like a connect AZ account identity, that we're using the managed identity, and account ID. On the next meeting, or next session, I will demonstrate how to work with SPN and how to authenticate against the log analytics with SPN. It will be a little bit different code, because it will use invoke method instead of the command AZ connect, but this one works fine with Azure automation account too. So like for Cloud Shell, if we execute this code for Cloud Shell, we can just delete this block and it will be executed, because it will use the Cloud Shell exactly identity that you see before. So we can execute this in another Cloud Shell, right? PowerShell core with installed AZ credentials, and it will work too. Or even with AZ, again, when we use the SPN, we can modify the script to use the just invoke commands instead of AZ commands, AZ query, right? So like, and it will work even with no any libraries, etc., etc. And we can wrap it outside the any of inside any of application to work with. Just a second, I'm trying to find another block of code. That will give you same experience, but with no any other options. And if you have questions, yeah, definitely you have questions. The code will be shared after, on the recorded video, so you will be able to find this code on the on the video. After that, inside the video or inside the description of the video on my YouTube channel, I will add exactly the links to the code. Just a second, I'm trying to find it, but can't find the another version of the code where I'm using the SPN, and this SPN works not with the command like invoke operation inside, but invoke web method and execute exactly by the API, not by just a second, open with code. Oops. Yeah, this one, you see, to work with this data, we are doing the identity like this by credentials, etc. Authenticate to the log analytics IOPS with the current credentials that's provided, and put the resources, etc. And after that, to have exactly the call, we put the call body here, and we have this call API, and this string and all these parameters sent to this call API, call log API. And here you can see invoke web request, use basic parsing, use headers, etc., etc., and we receive the table. And after that, because this one will be quite different table, we need to convert it in another way, but the result will be the same array with the list of objects inside. We will talk maybe later on the next meeting more detailed. And back to the slides. Questions? You don't need to do the deep modification of this code. In reality, what you need to change when you want to reuse this code, you just need to change the string, so how it will be result. And after that, the string will represent, again, array that we saw before. And this array must be converted to the table like this. This example quite easiest one, because we have a tr, you see, td, first cell of the table inside or of the column, and put the data that we take current row computer, right? After that, second td, second cell, and SLA that we take from the SLA object, this one, right? SLA, and the date, current row generated, time generated, the date when this SLA happens. So it's exactly the it's table 2, it's table 1, whatever. But anyway, so like this is how we build our table. So like for another table, you will have another IDs for the current row. Look what's going on here. We take the count of the array size. We know it from 0 to array size. We go in one by one by table, take this like a current row. We can check the current row parameters like SLA. We have this SLA, right? And check it and do something. Or if we need to put the just a computer name, we take this scenario. That's all. We just build XML inside the variable and send this like a result. Nothing special. If you will have some complicated table like merge a few cells or few rows together on the like a horizontal way or vertical way, you will need to add some logic, but it will be logic to manipulate of this string, because you will need to check and add, for example, col span or row span, and how many you need to row span, etc. But anyway, nothing special in terms of programming. So like this code could be used as is, with changes of the request and parameters that you need, and changes how you proceed the table exactly. But again, after this command, you have the table converted to the array, name it array with objects inside, name it objects. That is as is. Okay, we are running out of time. And thank you for joining. And again, all additional information you always can find by this QR code, and you can contact me by different ways, or you can join to my LinkedIn account, or you can send me email, or look on my YouTube or website, etc. Always welcome, and see you later on the next last evening Dubai Cloud Monitoring Tuesday. Next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Dubai time. Always welcome, and we will look how to use this code after that, ready-to-use solution. What we have to configure like automation, what we have to install like modules, what about the managed identity, how to provide the permissions, how to keep all this stuff together, run it, and look it and send it, and how we can use the Azure Policy to configure all other objects to send the data to the monitoring. And again, thank you, and see you next Tuesday. Bye bye.